Welcome to the Going North podcast, where we will deliver you tips and techniques to advance yourself in anything you decide to do in life. I am your host, Dom Brightman, and every Thursday I will interview authors, especially self-published ones from various walks of life, who will deliver you information and inspiration to help you charge forward. On a quick side note, be sure to check out my book, Going North, on Amazon.com. It's available on ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we have, you guessed it, another author, but not just any author. This is a personal record for me, and I'm really honored to have this guest on because not only is this guy an author, he is a #1 Amazon best-selling author, and he also won an Emmy Award in 1996 as well, so you're probably going to hear more about that. He has this wonderful blog called the Sunday Series, and it's really great, as well as 3 books online, which is the Sunday Series Volumes 1 and 2, and as well as the book It Takes Two. And I'm talking about the one, the only, Mark Brodinsky. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Dom. How are you? How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fabulous, fabulous indeed.
Good to talk to you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak about, have a conversation about things.
Oh, yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to this, too. I think it was when we met at a networking meeting, and Wendy, I think it was Wendy introduced us, and we were both wearing like almost the same color blazer, and then after the meeting, I go online, and then I see you won an Emmy. I'm like, oh, shoot, my goodness, I'm speaking to a living legend here.
I don't know if I go that far, but yeah, I did win an Emmy in '96 for TV producing local television. I was in television for 15 years right out of college. Worked for local station WJZ. I won an Emmy for best newscast in the media market at the time. A good run there, being a producer and an on-air reporter too. I worked on the morning show back then with Don Scott and Marty Bath, and we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. I did fun stuff, so I didn't do news and to do fires and murders and car crashes. I did these segments where I go out to different breakfast places in the morning and talk to people, conversate, and I could speak with them instead of the anchors. And then I had a segment called Manic Monday that I was the backup for that, Monday morning in Square and Fells Point. Then I had a segment called Fly Friday. We'd go up in the station's helicopter every Friday morning in between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m., and we would check out cool stuff from the air. And I basically produced it, and I was the on-air person, and they would go wherever I would tell them to go. So it was cool. We flew over corn mazes, watched them make snow in the mountains. Ooh. We would fly over people's houses if they put our call letters on the roof. We'd get people in their pools at 6:30 in the morning, and we'd get kids outside their schools at 7 o'clock in the morning. The segment I came up with called Cool Schools, and get the whole student body out there and the principal on the phone. And it was a lot of fun,
Oh, yeah, that's the kind of news I like right there. Not the news about the killings. That's kind of the reason why I stopped watching the news altogether. It's like, really, you got to talk about this person getting stabbed that day and getting shot in this corner. It's like, really? can't just at least show some of the good that's out there at least.
Yes. It used to be news. Now it's just entertainment. And it's the only purpose of a news program, and I talk about this in the talks that I give, is advertising. Yeah, they're trying to inform you, but it's sensational now, and they don't really care about you. They just care about driving the ads to the networks or the local stations. It's all ad money. So we're all voyeurs, and so we end up watching it, but it's the worst thing you can do to yourself because you're also being told how to think, what to watch, and what to pay attention to. You should make those choices yourself. You shouldn't let some news station manager dictate what it is that you should be informed about or how you should view the world, which is what TV news tries to do to you. And they keep you coming back because it's always bad. And the world is a great, wonderful place And there's always been bad things that happen, always will be bad things that will happen. It's a small percentage, though, of actual life. And so if you only focus on that, that's where your mind goes, and that becomes a problem.
Yeah, it's true indeed. And you're right. I mean, yes, the world has some bad stuff in it, and has some good stuff too. And it all depends on which lens you decide to put on over your eyes and see how the world is. And it's amazing how one set of lenses is really just used to just drive ad revenue.
They used to say if it bleeds, it leads. And so, but there's not bleeding every single day that you'll have to pay that close attention to. So there's also, if it lives and breathes, it should lead. Everyone's important. Everyone's a gift. Everyone's a masterpiece. Everyone's a miracle. And everyone's important, not just those who are doing bad things, but those who are doing good things, which should be paid attention to.
Oh, yes. Well, not just quarters, but $20 bills. Well,
$100 bill.
There you go. Got to think big.
We're all Benjamins.
That's right. Big Benjamins, the Big Bens. Not just the clocks. The big Bens indeed. So my backtracking a bit and informing us of how you just came into the communications industry and just coming right out of college and right into a news station.
Yeah, I mean, when I was little, I always wanted to be on television. I just had that dream, and for whatever reason, that's just what I wanted to do. And when I got in my senior year in college, some internship opportunities came up. I went to Towson State University, and there were a couple internship opportunities. I was always a writer. I worked on the school newspaper. I was featured as an entertainment editor at the newspaper, and I actually had taken a position at Baltimore Magazine as an intern, and then I went back to that office. Said, hey, got anything else? I'm just curious. And they told me, yeah, there's an opening at WJZ for an intern. So I went in there, and the minute I walked in the newsroom, I knew that that's where I wanted to be. I just knew it. And so that's where I got the internship. It's the greatest stepping stone, obviously, to get a job because you're already there. And if you do well and, if you do a good job, you're already sitting there. You don't need to go look at resumes and other things like that because you're right in the place you need to be when the position opens up, which is what happened. I got a producer position. I actually worked as a writer while I was still in my senior year in college on the 6 and 11 o'clock newscast, which was really cool. But a producer position opened up and ended up getting that, producing the morning show, then producing the 5 p.m. And as a result of the morning show slot, I was able to get an on-air role in the control room at first, and then once I took the role of the 5 p.m. news producer, that opened me up to go do live shots in the morning and work for 4 or 5 days a week with the morning show in the capacity that I love, which was being on air. So that's how I got into communications. But it was great, it really was. There's nothing like being on a TV station in your own hometown. I didn't have to go to some small town in rural America and work for 5 years and then go to another one. I got to be on TV in the city I grew up in, which there's really nothing quite like that.
Yes, indeed. Not to mention the family gets to brag, and then when they brag, you're at a closer range.
Yeah, and you have a built-in audience of family and friends that you're not, that already know you, and so it was good. It was great, actually.
Awesome indeed. And then who knows, from internship to a six-pack full of inspiration, being a Emmy Award-winning producer, and then putting out 3 books. So what led you to just being an author after your time with WJZ?
So I left television in 2001 part-time, 2003 full-time. But my first daughter was born, who's now just turned 18. And the TV business just wasn't conducive to being there. I was afraid I would miss out on a lot of things because, especially as a 5 p.m. producer, you can't just walk out of the newsroom at 3 o'clock to go see a dance recital or, watch a soccer game or, so I didn't want to miss her growing up. And I decided that I wanted to get out. And plus you just don't make a killing as a producer in Baltimore, and I was freelancing the on-air stuff, so I decided I would keep the on-air going as long as I could as a freelancer, and I went into the insurance business. And so I've done health insurance for self-employed for 17 years, but my love was really writing. And I was always a good writer, and people would tell me that. I got into the writing when the mother of my children got breast cancer in 2012, I started writing about it online on CaringBridge, and then people were following it, and I was putting it up on Facebook, and people were following it and saying, like, you need to write a book about this from a spouse's perspective, and love the way you write. I was just kind of sharing the experience from my viewpoint of her and my family going through it, and that became the first book. But I started a blog at the same time too, called It's Just About Life. I just wanted to write about observations of life. That's what it was. Those two things happened really in conjunction with each other, and the book ended up being called It Takes Two, living with breast cancer from a spouse's perspective. And then the blog I was doing a couple of days a week, just about life in general. So that's how I kind of went from television to I still was doing the insurance business, but as the main focus, but also just writing on the side. And then someone who liked the writing I was doing and how I was telling the cancer story, and then my blog in general, asked me to tell a story about her family. And I thought, well, I could certainly do that. Not something I'd focused on. It was really writing about mine. But once the book got published, I had some more free time to write. And she said, I'd like to tell you the story about our son who has a terminal illness. So I interviewed her, and I wrote the first story. And I thought, I didn't know how to showcase it in the blog. I'm like, how am I going to make it stand out? I'm in the shower one Friday morning and thinking about it. And this idea came into my head. I'm like, you know what? I'll call it the Sunday series, and I'll do it Sunday mornings. That's when people have more time to read. Just like that's why the newspaper is bigger on Sundays, right? Just a little bit more time, a little bit of a slower day. So I could write a longer blog and tell a story. So I started doing the Sunday series, and that was really where everything took off. So you create community, and the people that tell their stories are seen as heroes, because the blogs are really about courage, hope, and inspiration. Everyone has a story. And actually, everyone has a story of courage, hope, and inspiration if you really ask the right questions and dive deep. If you're living life, you have a story, and it's worth telling. Because we all win when you share your experiences, because we learn from them, or we empathize with them, or we sympathize with them, or we're just in awe of how you handle situations that some of us never could. And it vindicates and validates the reason that you're here by telling your story. It's the most powerful thing you could ever do, because everyone has a narrative of their lives, and the story is it. That's the one thing that will help you stand apart from the crowd as well, because no two people can have the same exact story. They're unique, and the world should know about it. And there's no reason, if I could, I'd write 7.5 billion stories, because everyone on the planet deserves to have their story told. And my mission in life is to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people. I'm only asking for 1/7 of the crowd. So that's what I'm focused on.
That is an awesome mission, and very true indeed. I forgot who originally said this, but I believe it was facts fade and stories stick. And it's really amazing that you're trying to at least have 1 billion stories told from folks, and not just extraordinary folks, but just regular ordinary folks who may have had to deal with extraordinary circumstances that may have brought them to like a really dark place, and they may have had to find the strength to overcome. I mean, it's really great that you're doing that, and even reminded me of a great point about how sometimes the best ideas can come at the worst moments, like when you're in the shower and you're fully into it. And it's kind of hard to write something down because you're soaking wet, and you don't want to write anything down when you might fall out the shower trying to write it down.
Right. It's just a moment of inspiration. You got to make it right. As soon as you're dry and toweled off, then you can write it down. But yeah, you never know when inspiration is going to come to you, and that comes a lot from reading books and gaining ideas and stealing ideas from other people. Because great, what Picasso, who said, lesser artists borrow, great artists steal. You should steal ideas from everyone you ever meet, because that's why that's why people write books. They didn't write the book because they want to hide. They write the book because they want you to know about the ideas that they had and the stories that they've had. And if you can gain something from, one thing from each person that you ever meet or read about, it's a powerful thing, powerful tool. I've become a better interviewer reading books, not just people who are interviewers, but because I read books that tell stories and I gain ideas from that. It makes me think of other questions. If you ask great questions, you get great answers. It's all about asking the right questions, and also just asking questions sometimes in general. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. And even when it's something that might be painful or they're being vulnerable, I think my gift is that people feel comfortable opening themselves up to me. For whatever reason, it works. And so people will tell themselves about me, and then I write it in a way that, I speak from the heart, I think from my heart, and I write from my heart. And I hope that shows up on the page as people read. That's my goal, is to share the story in a way that, people understand who this person is, why they're here, what they've done, what they've accomplished, what they've overcome, which is really the big thing, because everyone you will ever meet in your entire life is going through something. If you can help them in a way that validates, again, and vindicates what it is that they've done and accomplished, it helps their own self-esteem, and other people look at that and go, wow, this is amazing, because everybody wants to be vulnerable but is afraid because they live in fear that people won't like them if they are being themselves. And that holds people back from being who they truly are. We all lose when you can't be who you are.
Yeah, it's true indeed, because especially nowadays where the veneer can be very heavy with social media and everything else, it can be hard for some folks to be authentic, but that's really where your power lies, in your authenticity, because even though everybody loves to dream and they love to see the big things, at the end of the day, we still want to hear the real stuff that will actually help us to desire for more.
Mm-hmm. That's how we all connect. We're all social animals. We're better together. And alone we can't do great things. We can't lift heavy weights. We can't push mountains. We have to have other people with us. And so telling your story engages and attracts other people to you. And it also makes you feel better, I think, about the life that you're living, no matter what you've gone through. But, you got to be who you are. In fact, I saw a quote today from A.H. Almas that says, ultimately, your gift to the world is being who you are. It is both your gift and your fulfillment. One of the most challenging things to do in life is to be you. And we're all unique. We're all different, and that's okay. That's the whole game plan. You don't need to follow the herd. You should be who you are and be that tree that stands outside the forest.
Good stuff indeed. Always did love great quotes like that. Yeah, so what advice would you give to someone who's looking to find the strength to be authentic, to be the real versions of themselves?
I mean, you have to look inside yourself. Mark Twain's got a great quote, if you love quotes, that the two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day you find out why. I'd encourage people to think about their why. We're all here for a reason. And it doesn't mean you have to go stand on top of a mountain and shout it out, but you should figure out what it is and go and live it to the best that you can. You need to surround yourself with people that also want to do that, because you're the product of the 4 or 5 people you spend the most time with. And where they're going, you're going. So if you're with people who are doing that same thing and trying to live as who they are meant to be and are reaching toward goals and striving towards being authentic and reaching their potential, then you are going to do that too. If you're with people who don't believe there's anything to it and then they're negative, the world sucks, and all they do is complain and are miserable, that's also where you're going to live as well. So the best thing I can say is seek out the people that you want to spend time with who are positive. And I'm not talking about sunshine and roses. I get that the world can be a scary place, but we are what we think about all day long. And you change your mind, you change your life. If you read and you focus on things that are good and you're around positive people and you're around people really striving toward, again, doing great things and helping and serving and trying to make the world a better place by working on themselves, because you can't control the outside. You can only control the inside. You and I, we have control over who we are and what we think about and what we feed our brains, what we feed our bodies. We have control over those things. And if you can control that and work to make it better and try to live your potential, because we're all just scraping the surface of what's possible as a human being. I mean, you won the lottery, you're here. The 1 in 400 trillion shot that you're even on this planet. So you should look at that and go, wow, I mean, this is pretty cool that I'm alive. And yet we all have something in common, which is we're all going to die. And we don't know when. The question becomes, how can you live while you're alive? Truly live. So again, my advice is to find people that are like that. And if they're not in your natural environment, go and read about them. Listen to what they say on YouTube. There are tons of speeches out there and audio that you can listen to, and just continue to feed your mind telling you what a masterpiece you are, because you are. And it doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you don't fail. You're going to fail. You're going to fall down. And, Les Brown has a great line that, if you fall down, land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. So keep, or fall forward. Don't fall backward. Whatever you can do to get back up. The measure of a man or a woman is not how they operate in times of great prosperity and sunshiny days and everyone's behaving well and everything's going right. It's how you face life when the chips are down. What does Rocky Balboa say? It's not, how hard you get hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. When you can do that enough times and develop a mindset that no matter when things are down, you're going to find a way to get back up, then you change the world.
Beautiful indeed. Beautiful indeed. So speaking of getting hit harder, have there been any other trials that you have to overcome? I mean, dealing with the mother of your children going through breast cancer, that's a major thing. Have there been any other trials that you may have had to overcome to get to where you currently are today that you'd like to share with everyone listening?
Yeah, I've lost people in my life that was close to. My father-in-law died of esophageal cancer pretty quick. It's very painful. I went through an illness with my dad, who's come back from it. It's, when I was growing up, I had a stutter, and I still have it to some extent. I had a speech impediment, and that I let that affect my life. So I didn't really feel it until I was about in the 4th grade. But once I felt it happening, I let it affect my life for the next probably 15 years. And there were things I didn't do because of it. I look back on that. It's only, real regrets I have for not fighting hard enough against it, or just seeking help or telling people about it. I kind of found a way to hide it. And that held me back from doing things that I wanted to do, and being in different shows and plays and speaking, whatever it was. I felt that it was a disability when it's not. I look at Ed Sheeran now, who also had a similar problem. When he was younger, I've heard him talk about it, and, look what he's accomplished with his life. And, because he found his gift, and his gift was more powerful than his so-called disability of a speech impediment, and it drove him to overcome it. Now he's one of the greatest, songwriters and singers on the planet right now. That's one thing that I fought against, and always, looking back, held me back. So never look at anything as a disability. Look at it as a gift. And I think that drove me to say, hey, I want to be on TV. I want to be able to speak and get out in front of groups and put a mic in my hand and stand on the stage and, talk. And I used writing, I think, as a crutch back then because I was afraid to speak so much. So I became a better writer. I'm thankful for that. Look, that disability, I guess, gave me a gift of being able to write. But I wanted to go back and speak, too. So I'm trying to do two things at the same time and really work on that as well, because I want to get out and talk and inspire people, and I'm creating opportunities to do that.
Beautiful words indeed, especially like what you said about how the looking back held you back. It kind of reminds me of the whole rear view mirror thing in the windshield, of why the windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror. Got to look forward.
And you have to find a gift in every challenge, and there is, but you have to look for it. If you just become, then it's over. There's a book called The Book of Joy with the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and there's a great line in there I'd never heard before, because I've heard the line that change is inevitable, growth is optional. Well, the Dalai Lama says pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. You're going to go through painful things because life is hard. There's no person on this earth that just skates free all the way from the cradle to the grave. And so suffering, though, is optional. And you end the suffering by working on yourself to have the type of mindset and willpower and courage to fight through whatever it is that you're presented with. And know that it's usually worse in your mind than it is in reality, because we think the worst case scenarios when it's not real. We let our minds do that. We play games. And so you have to think a different way, change your mind, change your life. You think differently. But when the chips are down, knowing that there's a way out, belief in you, loving yourself, loving other people, giving, you'll find a way back.
Very true indeed. Because we all got gifts, just got to unwrap them and share them with others.
Exactly.
So speaking of great books, especially that Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu one, I still need to get around to that. That's probably on my ever-growing reading list. It just keeps growing. Are there any books in particular that really stood out to you? I went on your website and checked out The Higher Shelf. I really like that. That was really clever. Heck, it could be even one of those books, or is there any book in particular that just really stood out to you that really just helped you to just unpack your gift and share it with others?
I read a book called The Compound Effect, which was one of the first books I really read on my personal growth journey, and it's by Darren Hardy. He used to publish Success Magazine. Now he just kind of mentors very big change makers, powerful people. But he interviewed a lot of people in the magazine and also on the CD. But he wrote a book called The Compound Effect: How Little Things You Do Consistently Over Time Create Big Changes. And it was such a great beginning book, because you have to believe that. People think, well, if this big thing happens, that my life is going to change in ways that are unimaginable, that I couldn't think of before. But that's not it. There's no such thing as an overnight sensation. On the surface, it looks like that, but if you look at the work that was put in by someone who's classified as an overnight sensation, it's that they had the discipline to do all the stuff that wasn't fun, wasn't sexy, and was really hard to get to the point that now they're noticed for being this expert in whatever field they are, or what kind of a star they are, a singer, or whatever it is that you're doing that is just mind-blowing to many people. So that was a great book, and really, like I said, the foundation. I mean, to take it all the way full forward to the book I'm reading now, called Tribe of Mentors by Timothy Ferriss. Easily one of the best books I've ever read. It's short life advice from the best in the world. And he created 11 questions that he sends out to more than 100 people. Then he explains how he not only came up with the questions, but the order he sent them in. And the questions are just offbeat just enough and introspective just enough that the answers blow you away. Of some of the most successful people in the world, people I don't even know or didn't know in advance. And it's only four or five pages for each person. Every set of answers. I was going to highlight the book, but highlight the answer, but I can't, because I'll just highlight the entire book. It won't make any sense. It'll all be yellow. That's how great. Like the quote I just read you before is something I took out of the book from one of the people that interviewed. There's another guy, Joseph Campbell, who's in here, and there's a quote that says that the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. There's that. There's a book called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, which is maybe one of the best compilation books of like self-improvement books that she had read, experiences that she had. It's funny, it's powerful. I had a calendar some friend bought me last year over the holidays, was an excerpt from You Are a Badass. Every day you pulled off each day it had an excerpt or quote from the book. just really fantastic. John Maxwell's books are always great. There's a guy named Stephen Pressfield. If you are a creative person, and I love art, there's a book called The War of Art. That guy will take your mind and do a 180 on it every page that you read. And most of the pages are half pages. The text doesn't even go down to the bottom. It's so powerful. And he wrote that, and he did a follow-up called Turning Pro. I have a very close friend in my mastermind group, and Turning Pro was like the book that he found because he knew I read Stephen Pressfield, was looking for a certain subject matter. He found Pressfield's book called Turning Pro, and it turned his life around. It really propelled him to great success. A book called The Magic by Rhonda Byrne, which is a book about gratitude, which is the secret to everything. She wrote The Secret to the Magic is the 28-day program of gratitude. You immerse yourself in that, and things happen that you can't believe. A book I read years ago before I even really began my personal growth journey was called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself.
Uh-huh.
Fantastic book. because that is the key. There's a great line that if somebody walked up to you and talked to you like you talk to yourself, you'd slap them in the face. Because how bad and how harsh it is and how mean it is and how debilitating and defeating. And that's what we do to ourselves in our own mind. How unfair is that? So if you change the way that you talk to yourself, everything changes. I heard a great line yesterday that your cells are eavesdropping on your thoughts. The actual function of your body is being controlled by what your mind thinks. And that's why people who are depressed and anxious and fearful end up having more maladies and get sick more. And there's cancer and there's heart disease and there's all these other things that happen because your cells are responding to what your mind thinks. An emotional response on the rest of your body to the way your brain is moving and thinking. I was actually looking at my library while we're talking, but John Gordon writes some great books that are fiction but always have a message inside of them. It's very powerful. Short books are The Happiness Advantage by Sean Acor. I read a great memoir. Phil Knight wrote Shoe Dog, the creator of Nike.
I love that
great
book.
Story.
I love that book.
Great story. Great. I loved it too. It's a fantastic story. I mean, I'm a Nike fan because of it now. I mean, I don't know why I'd wear any other shoe. The 5 love languages for any relationship, whether it's good or bad, read it because you can figure out how the other person needs to be loved may not be the same way that you need to be loved. And when you try to love someone else the way that you want to be loved and it's not their love language, that creates conflict, creates resentment, and it can end a relationship. And it's pretty powerful that, not everybody, there's 5 different ways in the book at least, and they're pretty on point about relationships, emotions, love. So those are just a couple that aren't even on the list you talked about from the higher shelf because I've read so many so quickly I haven't been able to update it fast enough.
Speed reading, it's a wonderful skill.
Start with Why, Simon Sinek, great book. Bold, Peter Diamandis. Really just thinking exponential growth in everything that you do because we're all so connected. I mean, Tony Robbins has a great line. There's no such thing as a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. Everything you need, you have inside you, and everything you need outside of you is available because the internet's a miracle. You can find anything you're looking for. That's why the world has changed so much, and that's why it's such a cool thing, and that's why I know I'm positively impacting the lives of 1 billion people because we're all that connected. Why wouldn't you go for that? Why shouldn't you make that your goal? Why wouldn't I want to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people? I want to live the legacy while I'm alive, not necessarily when I'm gone.
Powerful words indeed, and a powerful array of books. Oh my goodness, especially the Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art. That book is really great, and it actually helped me a lot with my first book as well because it talked about that demon known as resistance.
Yeah. That's a huge demon. There's a book called Resisting Happiness by Matthew Kelly. It was also one of the best books I've read, and it really got me in touch with God as well, and spending time every day, every morning, 10 minutes a day, having a conversation with God. Change your life. Doesn't matter what religion you are. You believe in some higher power, than having that time each day on a consistent basis. Again, it's little things you do consistently over time create big changes. How long did it take for the Colorado River to cut through the Grand Canyon? You stand on the edge of that canyon and you look down, and it's so magnificent you can't put it into words. That water took its time cutting through it, right? And look what it created. The softest substance on Earth created one of the most magnificent divides on this planet. That's just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It's true indeed. The power of water. Actually, that's a pretty good book too. Masaru Emoto's book, The Power of Water.
Yeah, I've not read that yet. Let's put that on my list.
Yeah, it's great stuff indeed. It really talked about how powerful water is and how clear, clean water can actually become a crystal when you speak positive words to it over time, as opposed to negative words where sometimes the water may even crystallize, but it'll be very, very dark. Even kind of goes back to I think it was the book you mentioned about what to say when you talk to yourself. I mean, got to be really careful of what you say, not only to others, but most importantly to yourself, not only in your mind, but when you wake up in the morning. And if you give yourself a pep talk in the mirror, make sure it's a good one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I listen to things when I go to the gym. I mean, I got my earbuds in, plugged into my phone. I go on YouTube. I search different topics, or now that I've done this enough, I mean, I have subscriptions that are free to different speakers and different compilations they put together, and you just listen to people telling you that, you know, everything's possible and you're a miracle and you're magnificent and you should give to the world and give all you've got. And, you know, and you listen to that and you're like, wow, why wouldn't I want to do this? And so it is. It's what you feed your mind. The mind doesn't care what you feed it. It's going to take in whatever it is. If it's negative, it's negative. If it's positive, it's positive. If it's inspiring, it's going to be inspired. If it's the news, then that's what your mind's going to think.
Very true indeed. So going back in time, if you were 25 in 2018, what advice would you give to yourself?
What I said earlier, to be who you are, and not to shy away from that. Don't get caught up in what other people think. It doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what you think. And we're all different. So if you're trying to live your life, if I tell myself, try to live my life to someone else's standard, you're going to lose. You know, no one else should take that pen and write your life. You have to do it on your own. And be vulnerable. Be okay being vulnerable. Be okay with your flaws, with things that are right and things that are wrong, and have mercy on yourself, and also forgiveness. That, you know, I would tell myself, you always got to forgive, and hope that others forgive you too. Because you make mistakes in life, and everyone does, but forgiveness is a powerful tool, because when you don't forgive, when you harbor anger, that's your cross to bear, not the other person. By forgiving, you're giving that power, you know, you're taking the power instead of giving it to them. You just walk around with anger, you've given them power, that you're always going to be miserable and angry at that person. If you forgive, it's release, total release. And I would tell myself to go after what it is that I want and never hold back and find a way. But being who you are, finding your why. If I had started this when I was 25, I don't even know where I'd be. So exponential growth would have been even quicker. Really think about what it is that you love to do, and go out and find a way to do it. And like I said, it's not a lack of resources, lack of resourcefulness, especially now. Just never hold back because you think that someone else, again, won't like you, or thinks you're weird. It's the weird people that change the world.
I love that because it's so true.
But what's the line? The people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who usually do.
Yep.
And I'm crazy enough to think I can change the world.
There you go. We're not talking coins either.
No. Talking Benjamin. Right?
Yes.
You don't do it because of the Benjamins. You do it because you want to truly change yourself and change the world, and the Benjamins will come later.
Oh, yes, indeed. It's the weird folks that gave you iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Stay foolish, right?
There you go. So for all the folks who want to keep in touch with what you're doing and stay up with the Sunday Inspirational Series, where can we find that and keep up with what you're doing?
Best place to go is markbrodinsky.life. That website has my books, links to my books, links to my blog, a clip of my speaking engagements. And then there's a contact sheet too you can fill out if you want me to tell your story. I do storytelling. Like I said, I do it for businesses and nonprofits now too. The best way for a business to attract clients and customers is to tell their story. It's the only marketing tool that will make you unique, because no two people can have the same story. two businesses can have the same story. If you're a nonprofit, I work with nonprofits now too. You want to attract donors and participants. What's the most unique thing you can do and powerful thing is to tell your story, because the target of a story is the heart. Every story, that's the target, is someone's heart. When you touch hearts, you affect minds, you end up affecting wallets, and, a lot of good things happen when you can connect with someone's heart. And there's that social interaction, there's that, like I said, validation, vindication of who they are. MarkBrodinsky.life is the place to go.
That's right, folks. So keep up with Mark and all that he's doing. Go ahead and pick up a couple of his books and sign up for his email lists and get that Sunday inspiration in your coffee.
Right.
Or tea.
I appreciate the time, Dom.
Thanks a bunch for your listening ears on the Going North podcast. I hope you really, really enjoyed that episode. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family, especially those who love podcasts and love listening to some inspiration and motivation. And keep a lookout for the sequel to Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself in October 2018. And if you'd like to connect with me directly, feel free to shoot me an email at dombraidman@gmail.com.